Today on yet another beautiful Friday, we're hanging out in my new favorite place, my new quiet place, my new zen place, my new, man, I just want to spend all my time here place. And that just so happens to be the Far Cry 5 arcade editor. I've spent more time in the arcade editor now than I have in the base game. That's not to say that I'm not enjoying the base game. I genuinely am. It's actually kind of a hard thing every time I open up my Ubisoft launcher. Do I work on maps or do I play the game that already has a really cool giant map in it? 70% of the time, I'm going to work on maps. This is kind of a lifelong infatuation for me. You know, I've always wanted to go into game development, and there wasn't really anyone in my life when I was leaving high school to steer me in the right direction for that sort of thing. And I ended up going to online school and just not having a great experience in a field that I didn't want to be in and that I shouldn't have been in, which was game art design. I always wanted to work on maps. Like before I even finished high school, I was playing games that let me do that. I was making multiplayer maps for my friends in Time Splitters. I was messing around with the Unreal Engine to do modded stuff for Gears of War multiplayer. Not ever taking it very seriously, but toying around with it. And then I fell in love with Far Cry's map editor back in OG Far Cry, or Far Cry Predator Instincts on the Xbox. And that love continued to grow over time with games like Pariah, Far Cry Prime or Predator Instincts again, which was like sort of the Xbox version would have it, Far Cry 2 would have it, and then it would kind of disappear. So when I heard it was coming back and we were actually going to have a platform on which we could share our content, and that content wouldn't just be multiplayer deathmatch focused, but also cooperative and single player, I was like, yeah! This is going to be so cool, man. And then when I opened the map editor and it's like an editor, I was like, whoa, this is awesome, dude. Obviously, it's not as deep as you'll get if you just like boot up Unreal Engine or something like that, or the CryEngine or whatever. But you know, it's a smart engine. It lets you do a lot of things, and it's flexible, and it's very learnable, and it's easy to use at the end of the day if you're willing to put some time into it. It has its restrictions. You can only use 4 painting textures, which drives me crazy, but you can also use vegetation with grass, and there's 8 of those, so you can, you know, have a little bit more control and flexibility there. But nonetheless, this is the place where I've just been hanging out. So this is my most recent map. I've built 3 smaller maps and pretty much just thrown them out instantly. I usually will like build a bunch of maps quickly to work on a specific technique, like making rivers or making lakes or making mountains, building like an actual outpost and decorating it. And then I'll just throw them all away, and I'll actually like say, okay, well, let's build a map. So this is the first proper map. I'm hoping to release this when I finish it. It's going to be a multi-target bounty hunt that's going to use no health regeneration. So the idea being that it could be essentially permadeath. I haven't decided if I want to put medkits down, but basically you have to eliminate, I'm probably going to go with like 5 or 6 bounty targets. I'm not sure what the max is. I think I can just keep setting targets, to be honest. So I'll probably do quite a few targets, and they won't all be located at this outpost, which is extremely unfinished. This is going to be sort of a hotel that needs to be reclaimed by you. And I'm thinking there's going to be 2 targets there, and then we're going to have a couple other small locations and hopefully an underground bunker that I'm going to build as well in one of these mountains that we're going to build up here. But the big idea with this, outside of it being bounty hunt, is to give the player a lot of freedom. So I might have some waypoints depending on how I feel about it, like as I play it, to go to some of these things, but I want to have locations that the player can just discover and find, much like you do in regular Far Cry out in the open world. So the way I like to build my maps is to start with a simple object. So we laid down the hotel to start, and then we laid down like one other object there so I can get an idea for the scale of this area and how I might want to fill it out. You know, eventually we're going to have to rough this up, add some more terrain in here, add a lot of like maybe vehicles, maybe even like a small parking lot. You know, we're really going to decorate this, and it's going to get fleshed out eventually for the sake of gameplay and also for the sake of appealing to my visual wants and needs of making it look as good as I can. But then I'll go ahead and start building up around it. Now, the game does allow you to add backdrops. So if we go into the environmental tool here, we can actually throw a backdrop up, essentially trying to blend into the back of the world. It's all fine and dandy, it looks all right, but I like to build up the natural backdrop on the map as much as I can, and unfortunately, I should have moved this all this way more. That would have allowed me to really build this up, but what we're going to do along these sort of alpine mountains we've got that we're working on here is we're going to just build up like taller cliffs essentially and make it so the player can't get there. So again, it blends more naturally into the backdrop. Backdrop's cool, it really is, but I'd much rather just be able to, you know, build my own natural backdrops and again, focus on where the player's going to go. That's the big thing for me, right? I like to put a lot of detail into these maps, which is why I've been building this map for 2 hours and all I've gotten done is this first optional location for the player to take out maybe 2 of these, maybe 1 of these. Maybe the player will have to move after they use the sniper rifle up there. But I've just started custom painting like the terrain and stuff here. I don't like to just you can replace this shader right here, and we could actually just put in anything where it says IG default and it'll fill it all in, but I'd rather work over that. So I picked 3 shaders. We might actually put something underneath the map eventually to work as another texture, so we have all 4 in use. But right now I've got 3. So we've got our dirt leaves, which are going to blend with our rock cliffs, and then we've got our alpine forest mix, which is what you see here. So let's actually hop into the game, and I'll show you guys this first location that I got going here. And then we're actually going to build a zip line off of this. I actually have it set to outpost right now as well. We're going to switch it to bounty hunt, but that's not a big deal. The game does let you do that. So moving in right here, this is something I still have to work on. This is way too unnatural. So one of the difficulties of setting up a grappling point is you want the grappling to look like it's actually mounted into the rock face, but you also don't want it the actual like this sort of netting, right, where you can put your foothold in. You don't want that to like be in the rock, so you have to make a really straight drop using like the Flatten Tool, and then you got to clean this up because it really blurs the texture if you don't like blend this. So we'll probably build up the ground here and then smooth it out to make it look rocky. We might even put some rocks in here on top of that then to make it look like a natural rock surface. And these 2 got to go. You know, we got this and this. Just looks way too like man-made and forced, and I just want a more natural look. So let's head on up. Get to the top here, and I'll show you guys this first spot. Now, when I'm building these maps, the way I started doing them after like pouring just hundreds of pointless hours into the map editor back in the days of Far Cry Predator, Far Cry Primal Instincts. I don't remember the name of that game. They like re-released it like 10 times with like new story missions and a bunch of other hoo-ha. Anyway, the way I've always started doing is I'll build out like the basic layout, and then I decide on the gameplay portions of it. Like, so I'll say, you know, what do I want to do? What would be fun right now? If I was a player, what would be a cool way to take out the targets that will eventually be there? And I'm like, well, if I had a path to go to a sniper rifle via a cool, you know, terrain navigation system like the grappling hook, that'd be dope. So let's build that. And then we build off of that. We look at the other possibilities for what could the player do in that situation. Like maybe the player decides after they pick up the sniper rifle here that they don't want to stay up here because one of the targets is not actually in their line of sight and they'd rather not wait it out. So maybe they're going to go down and infiltrate the rest of the outpost. Maybe that's what they want to do, right? So what could we do? Well, we could build a zip line to the other side of the mountain over there. We could build a zip line somewhere over there to another ledge that has a small path that allows the player to sneak down through the forest and then infiltrate the rest of the outpost and take out their last target. That's kind of how my mindset would work. And again, then we'll build off that. Then we'll say, well, okay, where are we going to spawn the player in? Maybe that'll be the next decision. I just kind of let it all happen organically. I have no rhyme or reason when you're building a map like this alone. You know, if you're going to put serious detail into it, like I have with like a lot of these bushes and start to clean everything up eventually, it's going to take a long time. And that's why I like it. It's like, I don't get to do many really long, like 30, 40, 50 hour projects. Like, yeah, videos can take a long time, but building a map, there's just something more substantial to that. Like maybe even spending months on it and then coming back to it and then finishing it finally. So let's actually build the zipline. Let me show you guys how I would sort of go through that. Let's also go ahead and quickly stop at the forest over here, because one of the things that I think is really important if you're looking to get into doing this sort of thing, for me, I obsess over making sure the terrain feels, again, natural. So you can see we've got a forest over here, and we got bumps, man. This game has a really great noise tool and an erosion tool. So the noise tool allows you to essentially raise and lower at the same time, and you can decrease the radius and do small patches. So you get these small terrain deformations. You can go through here manually and do stuff, but I don't ever want it to look completely flat. If you've ever been in a forest like this, there'll be flat sections, but there'll also be rocks and, again, terrain changes, elevation change. So you want to bake that in, and you want to make sure that the scale of it feels natural. So if I drop down into here, you know, I can be satisfied and say, like, even as there's nothing on the ground, which is only going to add to the effect of any of this deformation, like, yeah, this looks good, man. This looks like a forest I might find myself in. You know, we'll throw some leaves down, and not only that, but it creates a great gameplay environment where I can say, oh, hey, let's slide over here, use this cover. Maybe I got some patrols going on in this forest that the player has to deal with. They can, you know, dispatch them in a stealthy manner. They can just go in guns blazing and get in a nice firefight in the woods here. So this is where we're going to build roughly our path. We'll have this sort of winding path through this cliffside coming down from our zip line. So let's go ahead and boop our way up here. Boop our way to the top. If we look over here, we're going to need like some higher elevation, or we're going to need to ensure that the zip line drops us lower. So why don't we go ahead and, this is already kind of a flat area here, right? We can go ahead and then take our flatten tool, grab a portion of this, and boom. Now we've got a cliffside to work with. So we're going to smooth that out right away though, because we don't want it to look, again, too unnatural. And while we're here, we might just start going full Bob Ross on all this. I like to just paint stuff as I go. So if I create a specific feature, I'll texture it. And I'm there, right? And then I can go back in later and texture in the rest. And I've actually found that that creates kind of a natural way of doing things. You're blending textures, much like Bob Ross does on his wet medium canvas. And I love that. So we'll put a little bit of dirt leaves up on top here towards the edge of the cliffside. Then we'll get our alpine forest mix going. We'll start to blend that up there, right? And then we're going to go ahead and we'll get our rock cliff going on the back of this again, right? We'll probably turn that into more of an actual cliff surface at some point. So we might as well throw the texture there, just kind of remind us and inspire us. Now, again, we want to build a path coming down the side of the mountain here. So if we go ahead and just kind of look at that, we've got a pretty good environment already. So we could just use the smooth tool here to really start to flatten out this side. And then we'll decrease the radius and we'll flatten a very small path. And we'll use that path to sort of build out this little elevation change we want here. So let's drop through here, I'm thinking, and just start to cut that down. Now, one of the other ways we can do this as well is to actually use the ramp tool, which is, it's a bit finicky. You got to get used to it, but essentially you mark your first point and then your second point, it automatically builds a reasonable elevation change for you, right? And then you can work off that. You can smooth the edge here, maybe get rid of it somewhat, maybe get rid of it over here. And I'm thinking in general, we just want this to flow a little better. So smooth it out. There you go. You can see we've got a small elevation change here. And what we might want to do is just go ahead and take the razor lower tool, the bump tool. We can put it in grab mode, and we can just start to manually decrease the elevation here and build out our terrain. And again, smoothing along the way as we need to. That looks okay for this first step here, and we just need to really find a way to build it down. And I like small trails. I think they just give like a really cool experience. I like a nice small path. So let's try and build that out, right? Let's try and let's grab our raise and lower tool here. We'll get that radius nice and tight, and we'll also really crank up the hardness. So we're basically working with a 1-to-1 brush. It's going to allow us to do exactly what we want. The difficulty here, though, is to really make sure you modify your height in the direction you want it to be modified, so you're not adding or removing too much. There we go. That's a little bit better. We'll probably have to build this up, actually, so let's build this up. We could smooth it all later. Just get the rough idea, and you can really work with that, so it's not, it's not too big of a concern otherwise. One of the other things we could have done is just use the flatten tool as well, and that would have given us, like, if we go ahead and just use the flatten tool right now, we'll make this, again, really small, increase hardness, and then we could build like that, and there we go. We got a nice little path going, and then we can essentially keep doing the same thing. So we'll go down a level, and then we can flatten there, and then we can just start to connect them all. I'm thinking we'll actually bring ourselves to a position where we're winding down right here. So this will work out perfectly. So there we go. You can kind of see what we got going on. Links up to here, and we'll flatten that, and then we'll take out the smooth tool, increase the brush size a little bit, and then just carefully smooth this. It's going to be difficult because it's probably going to smooth it too much, to be honest. So we'll have to work with it, but you get the general idea. I'd spend a lot more time just honestly tweaking that endlessly. Let's set up the zip line, because honestly, that's gonna be the fun part, is it not? So we're gonna go into our gameplay here, climbing and navigation, zip lines. Got them zip lines, ladies and gentlemen. So this is our anchor line. I'm gonna be honest. I've not yet done the zip line, so I think this is our actual zip line itself. This is extra small anchor. This is the large anchor, so we want the large anchor. So we're gonna put one, we'll put it right back here, almost near the tree, and then there you go, that's what happens. Okay, cool. So now we can just run it across the cliffside here. Whoa. Where's this game trying to do to me, man? It's just dragging me all over the place. There we go, and then we can put it over here. Now I'm actually gonna just temporarily put it there, because I don't actually like it there. I actually want to raise this up a little bit, and I have some problems with grass over on this side of the cliff here. So we're actually going to go ahead and take our bump tool and make that nice and fat for a second. Grab our 2-inch brush and just do a little bit of blending over on the trees here. That actually did something. Oh, I'm in grab mode. I'm in grab mode, guys. Check your modes. Check your modes, ladies and gentlemen. That's okay because this actually is going to work out perfectly. We're going to take the Flatten Tool now, and we're going to go ahead and use this spot right here to build out our little cliff edge. So boom, we got another little cliff edge we're building out here. This is where we're going to put our surface. This is where we're going to put our zip line, if you will. And like I said, I want to build out all this surface behind here anyway to make this look a little bit more believable so the player can't really get in there. So we can build that all up carefully. And then we can go ahead and smooth it down just a little bit. And while we're here, break out that brush, get our cliff surface going. Yeah, there we go. Nice natural cliff surface. This is all going to be cliff right here. We know this is going to be nice and steep, so we'll go ahead and blend that up real good. Yeah, we can leave the cliff surface on this side as well. And that looks not too shabby. I like it. It's looking good. We'll probably build a climbing point here. So let's just go ahead and switch back into our grab mode. We can go ahead and then move our grappling, our zip. I keep wanting to call it a grappling hook. Our zip line up here where it makes a little bit more sense. And then if we go back into our objects, we actually are in the same place for our climbable ledges. So we can go ahead and deploy a climbable ledge. A couple climbable ledges we'll probably need considering this. So we'll just throw this up here. And then we'll go ahead and grab our Flatten Tool once again. And this is actually the perfect height right here for the most part. So we can build out on this. And then what we'll do is we'll bump up right here just a little bit. Just a little bit. So we got something else to work off of with the Flatten Tool. And then flatten there. And we'll probably just decrease that a little bit. So what we can do is use the grab mode on the bump. And then we should be able to, in theory, just kind of smooth that all out, and it'll probably just make a mess. The smoothing tool is your friend and your worst enemy if you're not careful with it. So I'm going to get my flatten tool going again. Actually going to flatten right here. Honestly, I'm trying to think of player height. We should be okay. One of the better tools to actually use in this situation is to use your set terrain height. So we'd actually set this up. And what you can do if you look at the bottom right down here, you'll see that is your height. So we're sitting at 100 roughly right there. So we'll set this to 100. We can just do 99 and we'll see what we get. So we got a little bit of an increase. So we actually want to go maybe 104. Maybe 104 is too much. We're working in a very small area here. You have to remember that. So 101. That's a little bit better. And we can build that out. That looks like it should be natural enough for us to work with. So I'm going to get my Flatten Tool one more time and extend this whole surface a little bit. Carefully, though. Carefully. Okay, we should be good there. Now, what we're going to do with the Smooth Tool is really decrease the speed and the hardness of it. Just gently smooth it out. Now we can go back to our little ledge hangy thing here. Our ledge hangy thingy majig. And I'll probably go and actually do a lot more detail. Like I said, you could just pour hours into this, man. And put this, I want to essentially get this set up so it looks like the ropes are hanging. That would be the ideal situation, right? Let's just do a copy paste on that. We got another one maybe right over here. We'll just go ahead and grab our movement tools there and set that up. Yeah, not too shabby. You probably wouldn't need one for the rest of it, right? I'm actually going to smooth this out because it looks like rubbish up there. And we can just say that this is sort of on a cliff hang here, if you will. Actually, you know, let's keep it flat. I like the idea of it being flat. Let's just grab right back behind this. Really flatten this and bring it out. I want it to be like a cliff here, right? I want the player to feel like right on the edge of the precipice of falling to their death or something like that. Let's get our rock face going there. And then let's check it out, man. This is the best part, right? You build something really cool. You could essentially just build joyrides all day long in this game if you wanted to. Yeah, there we go. That's perfect. I'll definitely smooth this out a little bit more so it looks a little bit more natural. And we could probably actually see this top right here. We'll bring this actually straight out. We don't need this second ledge here. So we were good on height. You guys ready? You ready to go for a ride, man? Oh, we got to actually attach. We got to attach the zip line. We forgot about some stuff, guys. We forgot about some stuff. Okay, back into our climbing tools here. Back into our zipline anchor. Now, the game can be a bit weird with some of this stuff, I'm going to be honest. You got to just like figure out how things are actually supposed to grab onto things here. Oh. See, because I think... Oh, you know what? No, we should be good. I think this is just another anchor point, right? This is just like the small anchor point. We got the large. Huh. Maybe I'm curious now as to why our player... This is the first time I've actually built a whatchamacallit specifically, so no, I don't want to clear the slot. I want to go to gear. I want to make sure that we have everything we need. Let's just get back in again. Oh, you know what it might be actually as well? It's in the red, which might be implying that we can't grapple on it because of its current location. So there's a good chance that these trees are actually preventing the zipline from doing what it needs to do. So let's go ahead and we'll clear out some of these trees with the brush tool real quick. I've got a alpine grass set up here. And see if that gives us a green. That might not actually be the case. I might just, again, I'm not really entirely sure how the grapple works here. I'm checking our object, and all we really have is tension, which is cool to be able to affect that is pretty neat. But you know what? Let's just hop back in again and see what's up. Troubleshooting is just an endless part of the experience. Oh, you know what, guys? You know what we did wrong, don't you? We're gonna finish this grappling hook before this video is over if it kills me. Thank you guys. Whoever's been hanging out, 20-minute video, man. That's what's up, guys. We can actually just go ahead and delete the anchor and we'll build a new one. I think it does actually matter. No, it shouldn't matter what direction it's in. We're gonna build it from scratch anyway, because there's just no reason to not. See, so this would be more of like a hanging anchor point, if you will. Anyway, let's go ahead and just put our long one down right on the edge here. We'll go back over to our other side here. And let's just get it right where we want it, right through the trees. Boom. Huh. Anyway, the troubleshooting might have to be saved for another day. No, there we go. We did it right. Yeah, okay, so it was. There is a certain order. You got to start with the high ground and move to the low ground. Let's take a ride. Maybe we drop through this window and wipe that guy out. Maybe we drop a grenade as we're ziplining over. We could leave all the trees. That would actually be cool. Oh, the trees actually knock us off the zipline. Well, that's good to know. Experimentation, ladies and gentlemen, it is the key to the success of your map building endeavors. I hope you guys have enjoyed this super casual random Friday video. If you hung out with me, if it got you inspired to use the map editor, then it did its job. Stuff like this, I think, is really important for video games, for the industry as a whole. The idea that a player can come in here and get a small glimpse into the world of a developer and see just how much work goes into making something like this. And when I say just how much, just a small glimpse into just how much, because you didn't have to code any of this. You didn't have to deal with the bugs that occur when a player decides to shoot something. There's so much more to game dev, right? But this is at least an idea of, oh, wow, that giant world they built that isn't procedurally generated? Holy shit. Holy crap. That's pretty impressive. Yeah, it's more impressive than you probably think it is or than you probably give it credit for. So I'm going to get back to tweaking my grappling points and figuring out just where I want to take this map next. And hopefully some point down the line I'll be able to release a video showing you guys this project and actually putting it up so you can download it and check it out for yourself. I hope you guys have a killer weekend, and I will see you in the next one.